Good morning. We're going to record this, and hopefully our banter back and forth will give you lots more information than whatnot. And that's the joy and the advantage of coming in person, because you can play off each other and learn new things and share ideas and that kind of stuff. But those of you who are watching it on video, you're going to get good stuff as well. We will be posting all of the slide presentation from this. There is a link to the entire webinar from Florida Realtors with the attorneys talking about it in depth for over an hour. So if you really want to get all the good information, I encourage you to do that. I'm not an attorney. I'm not the Florida Realtors. It's more down and dirty what we need to do our business and make money. And we're talking everything, all the way from insurance and everything else. Part of what we wanted to talk about, other than just the condo stuff, is what's going on in our marketplace, right? Everybody saw the Wall Street Journal article. We love it. We've got a really nice rebuttal that the board put together with some really great stats, things like that. You can pull that up. You can use that information to put your own stuff out there to your customers. We need to fight at the ground level to let people know that Florida is not crashing into the ocean and into the Gulf of whatever it is now. So they can come and they can buy property. I mean, we're still at number 3 as far as growth over any other state. We have no state income tax. We're doing really, really well. Our economy is good. There's no negatives to Florida at all. We're in the midst of hurricane season, which is more predictable than tornadoes and floods. So Florida's sitting in a better spot. So we encourage you to do that and if you come up with some great ideas, please share them. And we're getting very aggressive with some of our marketing at Jones & Company, really, to help you guys to get more customers excited about coming down here as well. So Florida is one of the top state parts of the country with condominiums. New York is the biggest, I think, and then followed by Florida. So we're kind of on the cutting edge usually of stuff that's going on with condominiums. And we all use the condo writer. Everybody knows that, right? Yes. Okay. Yeah. And there's been some changes in it as well. The biggest thing that I'm not going to focus on for us is because we don't sell that many condominiums that are high rise, that are vertical. That's, if you do, there's some in Naples, but they did really strengthen a lot of that about the reserves. They've gotten better about how to get funding for the repairs and all of that kind of stuff. But that's why you watch the webinar for a full hour, not my doing that. But what I thought was really interesting, and this does work for us, Condo 3.0, up until July 1st, the condos that had 150 more units had to put all of their documents online on a website, easily accessible to the public. Now it's 25 units or more. So that covers almost, I think it's like 75%, 92% of the associations now. They have until January 1st to get it online. Part of the reason that they gave them a little bit more space is they now have to put the full year's worth of board of director minutes and everything available online. That's huge for us, because that's where all the little dirty little secrets of what's happening are in the board of director minutes, and the sellers have never wanted to share that before. So now that they have to. And it just emphasized the financial report, the monthly expenses, all the meeting notices, agendas, all of that stuff. If they do have milestone inspections or anything like that, building permits, all of that will also have to be on the website. And I can email you the whole slide presentation if you want, and we'll put it on the team page. The biggest thing was the buyer review period. Right now, up until July 1st, when in a resale condo, the buyer had 3 calendar days to review all the documents, the financials, the budget, everything, and then make a decision whether they were going to move forward with it or not. The lovely state government decided that since they're going to add more financials in there and the director meetings, that the buyers needed 7 business days to review it. So instead of 3 days, it can go as long as 10 days, 7 business days. So they have up to 10 days basically to read it and back out. So you want to be really super careful of that information, depending on what size you're in there. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know where that 7 days is stated in this document? I never found it.
The house, yeah, and I also put the House Bill 913 in case somebody asks. Oh, thank you, Tim.
Ah, it's the big bold print. Yeah. Skip right over that. Okay, thanks.
Right.
Thank you.
How come this one says 3 days? How did I get an old one? Oh, that's 12.
On page 3.
That's 12. How did I get the old one?
Page 1 is about that approval.
I don't have a good one.
That's where I was looking for. That's where I was looking for.
I've got the red line in this one. There we go. Okay. You won't find the 1224s anymore. I kept one. And the red line.
So they're all gone out of app files.
They are all gone out of app files. They're gone out of Form Simplicity. They're not anywhere. But the whole first page, when you look at what they did, that's the red line. Yeah. And in addition to the 7 days, the other problem that we've always had with agents on other sides and stuff is if you sell a condo that's in a homeowners association, that might even be in a master association, like Kelly Green's has all these layers of associations. And that's where the wording has changed, and it's all nice and bold. If a party is part of a master or other homeowners association, then the seller shall complete Rider B, homeowners association / community disclosure. They moved it up to where it's more noticeable. But then that way the other listing agent can't argue with you that you need more than one rider. Before it was just, the condo, Scott says the other association figures on there, blah, blah. So every time you have a homeowners association, you need a form for every association. So you could have as many as 2 or 3 riders on there. And it put all the condo association and management company information right up on the first page as well. It's good transparency. It also makes it easier for us if we have to do any kind of follow-up and things like that. Yeah, just jump in. We're adults.
Anyway.
Oh, that's from your wife.
I was outstanding in school. Anyway. So I noticed there's 2 here. I just pulled up yesterday.
You're looking at what?
First page of that.
Okay.
So it has the management company, right, and it has association.
Mm-hmm.
So in my example, basically, there's 28 different associations in our community, and each one has their own management company to do all the maintenance and blah, blah, blah. But that's also where you make your payments for the condo fee or assessment to them.
Okay.
There isn't a separate association that anybody would write checks to
outside
of that, other than the master, which is completely different. It's like B.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just curious, is this form been set up such that in some cases, some communities actually have, they have somebody who manages the association, like landscape, pest control, blah, 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 right, irrigation, stuff like that. In some cases have insurance on the structure and roof, and sometimes flood. Is that what that other section is, association, the event they have like another association that they would make payments to? That's a little confusing, right?
Well, the name of the association would be the name of the condo, usually.
Right. So
that's what you want to put, the legal entity, the legal name.
Okay.
And then if there is a management company, which most there are, then if it's Empire or it's Alliant or whatever.
Right? Yeah. So all right. So say you have an association. So that would be, would that information be based on the board and maybe the president of that board for the association then?
Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you don't know, that's not like,
I get it.
yeah.
But I'm just curious. That's interesting that you would do that. But okay.
That should be who it is. Yeah. It should be the president of that. Unless there's a CAM. Now like Old Bridge Village, they don't have a separate management company. Right. They hired a CAM, a condo association manager, to actually just manage the association. So the association is still like Old Bridge Village, but then Cindy Lou would be the contact person rather than the president of the association, because they've hired a staff person.
Separate.
Right. Just Who can you talk to get the application? Who can you talk to get the information? That's really all we're looking at that, because then they're going to take it upon themselves with the applications and all that, saying, here's who you have to pay your checks to, here's what you have to do.
Title is all that.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, it's just interesting because we have about 74 properties that are listed right now, and it's represented over 42 different brokerages. You can imagine what I'm dealing with when I have another listed agent.
Oh my God.
It's a little crazy.
I am skipping all that stuff about the structural integrity reserve studies and all of that kind of stuff. That's just a whole other issue in itself. There, if you need stuff, this is the DBPR Condo website. This is a really good place to go, especially if you want to know who to get in contact with and stuff, Tim.
Yeah.
It's right there, condos.myfloridalicense.com. That's not the Florida site. That's DBPR. That's the state, the licensing side of it. That's not the Florida Realtors. So that's where all the laws are actually administered and so on. Okay, moving on, which we already started. You know, there was a lot of little just cleanup crap, but like that's the biggest thing was that. That's the most important thing. At the condominium association approval, it always has is or is not required. If in doubt, I would check is required. If you're filling it out from the buyer side and giving it to the listing agent, which hopefully listing agents will learn now and have this. It should be in the MLS. It should be attached. You ask, and when you're showing the property, you ask for it, and you get this. You can hear it, the deer in the headlight, I was like, why do you bother selling condos if you don't have the financials, the budget, the applications, if you haven't done your homework before? And you hear, Riley's all over you. Where is it? They know.
I just went through this with another listing agent, and everything in the rider A and B was wrong.
Yeah. So yeah. So
rewrite it all.
I mean, I would rather. Yeah, I mean, write it out the best you can if they don't provide one, because you don't want to go in there without it. That does little say when you have the business days to do that. That's Florida law. So Florida law is there no matter what. So even if you didn't do a condominium rider, that doesn't wipe out the buyer's right to review the documents for 7 days. Because that used to be another little sneaky thing. Well, you didn't sign the condo, right? You didn't that, so you don't get your 3 days. You just waived it. You can't waive the law. But if you don't know, put is required. That's always better. But it also has right in here, and that's the highlighted part that they added in there. After the effective date, the seller shall initiate the approval process with the condo association, and they're supposed to provide the buyer with the application, not us having to follow the management company. But we also know that you will probably still have to do that. But at least we're trying to get that. And there's so many new agents now in the business. If they're getting trained right from the beginning with this, we're hoping that that's going to change a lot of the environment. And the old farts who don't want to change will get pushed out the door. Right? I know we're very opinionated here. Same thing here. The right of first refusal. If you don't know, put has a right. They always have the right to do that. Does everybody understand what the right of first refusal is? Okay. You ever had any experience with that? That's always fun. Like associations that want to be adult only but aren't, that never changed their docs for housing for older persons, and they try not to allow people with kids in. Oh no.
That kind of hits a different law, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of hits another little law. Yeah. And that's where if they have the right of first refusal and they say, oh, well, we're not going to do that. Okay, you don't have to. Write us a check for the condo. That's that lovely right of first refusal. So most of the condominium documents are written with that in there, unless they absolutely don't put it in there. All assessments shall be made current. We know that. Okay, so the new version. This was the old. Let me go back. Okay, so the one we were using, all the assessments were to be made current by the seller, and then the buyer reimbursed the seller, right, for prepayments. They changed this, so now it's all regular periodic assessments, because there might be big assessments that are now paid in chunks. Like instead of a $30,000 assessment, it's going to be $1,000 per quarter. So they're periodic assessments. So that they just clarified it again. If it's a periodic assessment, the seller has to bring it current,
Right.
and then the rest go over to the buyer. It's small little things, but they're big things when there's an issue. All the fees, any fine, which I love, the seller has to pay all fines, which was a problem before. So if they've got fines for not paying their dues on time, or paying their assessments, or they've got fines for not turning pool keys in and stuff like that, all of that has to be paid at closing. So when they go to send that letter of approval to the condo associations, they're going to really insist that get paid. Before, it was just arguing back and forth. Right, it should be on the estoppel. So now it's in the agreement. They know that they have to pay it up front. Because we all know sellers like to get around stuff if they can. Not all sellers, but a good amount of them. The same thing with the fines. They've got to remedy, if there's any open violation, that they have any notices from the board, they've got to clean it up, get it done. I mean, sometimes it's just as simple as they haven't taken their garbage out. That they're leaving it by the front door and stuff like that. That seems to be a big condo thing. They have to remedy it. Did you all read the special assessments? I'm making that a little bit bigger, maybe, so you can see it. That's 3C. So if the condominiums are assessed right there as of effective date, that's when we wrote the contract, then you have to check it. If you don't check it, then the seller gets it, and they have to pay that completely in full. The part that we were talking about, and they spent some time on the video with that, was on 3C3, which was special assessments or additional assessments, anything like that. Who's going to pay it? Because you can make an arrangement if the buyer's going to assume it and so on. But they also made it they put it in bold, if the seller was going to pay it, right? Or if the condo association doesn't allow a buyer to assume assessments. Because these are ones that are out there that haven't been levied yet. They're going to be paid after closing, and they say the buyer could assume it.
Right.
Sometimes condo associations don't allow that. Okay. And it depends on the politics of the association. But if they don't, then the seller has to pay it in full. There's no getting around it. And also, if you're getting a loan, sometimes the lenders won't allow those assessments to go, because they're not governmental assessments. It's a condo assessment. So that even though the wording in the doc says that, the practicality of it, the lender may require that it get paid off. And that's getting a good lender who knows how to deal with condominiums. There's a lot of lenders out there that don't deal in condominiums, and they don't know, and you get halfway through the process and all of a sudden everything's going sideways because they don't understand how to deal with condo associations, time frames, and everything. So make sure you talk to a good lender that does condo docs. Steve Geving is one of our agents. I forgot the name of his company, but he does really good condos. Obviously, Tracy Hedberg, Van Lanschut. She knows them. Who else do we have that's on the lending? Those are our two favorite lenders.
This could be more applicable towards if the association had a large project going on for many years, or not many. Well, it could be multiple years, but where they're spreading out the cost of those assessments for like 10 years or something like that. Because we're redoing the community's infrastructure, town water, sewer, internet type of thing.
Well, like you're doing a clubhouse. Yeah.
That's HOA.
Well, okay, but if it's a condo doing that, or
at Copperleaf, they just did their whole everything all over again, and they're assessing everybody $3,500 for 12 years.
Okay.
So that's
yeah.
It, it's like, okay, but they're still
Right.
I would assume you can take that off.
if you've put it in
Or
there.
negotiate and the
Or you
seller
negotiate,
has to pay it off,
right.
based on.
And that association probably will let it be assumed. But it depends on what the lender has. That's where you're at. Yahoo! That's that wonderful little 7 days that we kept talking about. But it also, you can see in there, it has the year-end financial statement. They have to give a copy of the most recent year-end financial statement and the budget. They've added that in there, in addition to everything else they have. The old, and I don't know if it's in a slide or not, but we used to have there used to be one little line in the old one that said that they've received the documents after they get it, going back in and modifying a rider. That really doesn't work well, so it's not in there. This has been around since forever and ever. They revised it in October of 2024, but there's a separate little page that has a receipt of condominium/cooperative documents. That's that loose one that I handed you. I would go ahead and start using that. They changed it last year to include all the milestone inspections and the structural integrity reserve studies. They've included all that in there. But it also has in there the condo governance form. 99% of agents don't know what a condo governance form is. They don't give it to their sellers. They don't give it to their buyers. But it's required by the Division of Condominiums. It tells the owners of the properties what the responsibilities are of the condo association and the directors and all of that. So it's what you're getting into. It's kind of like a town charter for a condominium. So it's just a form. It's kind of like the energy efficiency brochure. You email the condo governance form to your buyer when you list it. Give it to your seller. But this also now all has a little checkbox that we've given it to them. And this, if you ever need a CYA form, yes, here's when the clock starts ticking for our 7 days when they sign this. So I would.
Right now it's more or less, you email everything and they go, yeah, I read it.
We've all been loosey-goosey because it's only been 3 days. Yeah. But now it's a long amount of time, and this is when the deals could really go sideways. So I would do more documentation just to be safe, just to do that. So it's in the little milk crate box in case you need paper, and we have that in the agent area. There's a little plastic milk crate. It has forms in it and contracts. We were actually using it when we didn't have power and we couldn't internet. We try not to have paper, but paper's there just in case the world, you need it to go sideways. But I would definitely send this over as the listing agent with the docs when you do it.
Because actually, the rider A kind of covers the third bullet, right? I mean, you're checking the box off because you sent the docs. There's usually a date that says when it was done. So this is just reinforcing that to say, yeah, the buyer's now signed the fact that they received it, as opposed to I'm checking the rider A. Yeah, I sent it.
Right.
Okay.
And you're going to send it via email.
Oh, yeah.
Through it. So you've got another. I sent it to you Monday. What do you mean you held on to it for 5 days? Because the clock technically really is going to start ticking when it goes to the agent, not when the selling agent hands it to the customer. We are considered the buyer, if you will, as the agent for the buyer. When we get the docs, that's when everything starts ticking. So the agent can't play sloppy and try to avoid picking up. So yes, and that's why you want to put them in the MLS if it's at all possible. That because then we're tightening that little period of anybody changing. Please, yeah. Because then if something should happen and the girls can help you out, they'll do that. They're more than happy to do it. They don't know what they're looking at. I mean, they can't interpret it as a real estate agent, but they know, oh yeah, budget, send it off. Again, most recent financial statement. That's the biggie. And associations have not been very, very cooperative with that. But it is the law that they have to do it. And that's why you need to know that 713 in case they ask about it. The old version on the documents, that's what we're really talking about.
Yeah, there it is right there. Right. So you can see.
Yeah.
That's what I, yeah.
Yeah. That's the new version. Look at that.
Yeah,
that expanded it way, way, way out, which I really like because it's very specific about what the buyers are supposed to get. That's on page 3 of 5.
I mean, I've never had a buyer ask me for the last 12 months. They've asked to say, hey, where's the budget at? You know, what's the
Yeah.
next meeting minutes and stuff like that. But that could be a challenge for a lot of association managers.
That's the law, though.
When did they have to put in the website? There's a date that
The January 1, 2026 for the website.
So they still have some months.
But as of July 1st, they have to provide this stuff. So they've got to give it to you via email, via writing, whatever. They don't have to post it yet.
But we can't get to them on the website, only the seller here.
It's supposed to be made available to the public.
Oh. Okay.
Supposed to.
Yeah, it's public facing, right?
Yeah, that's the whole deal, so that they can't hide it. You have to go to the seller, you have to go to the buyer. But right now, it's still old school, going to the association and asking for it. Yes.
Are we using the forms for townhouses or just this?
Townhouses and like coach homes, those are just what we call designs of the unit. You have to look at the tax roll and see if it's labeled as a single family or a condo, because townhouses can be either, coach homes can be either, villas can be either. So
Especially this form, just for condo, right?
the documents,
Yeah, no, we have.
yes, that's for condo.
We're using the regular NEDA for the HOA.
Yes, the HOA writer hasn't.
Okay.
Yes. And that's what we were talking about, because it could be both. Like I think Lexington Country Club, they've got their condos, and then they've got yeah.
I had actually asked MLS if they could have a report that says, I go into a community and can you do like your CMAs?
Yeah.
And group it by the different types of homes.
Oh.
I had to request it.
That's a colony from Daniels. They have like different divisions there. Yeah. Townhouse.
Yeah. You just have to look at the tax roll. That's the best. That's the most reliable way. It'll say the type of property. It'll say condominium, like for the zoning of the property, it'll say condo or single family. You can.
In the top third of the tax roll usually.
Yeah. If you go through the public record through the MLS rather than going to LIPA, it's usually easier to find the information. That's realist. That's realist, yeah. Yeah, if you do it realist, it's easier for us. Yeah. You go through LIPA, it's more confusing because it's not designed to be realtor friendly.
So that brings up a good point.
Yeah.
Recently, I've seen several properties, including my listing. I cannot get the tax off of MLS. It's shaded out. There's 3 tabs that are shaded out. Any idea on that? I sent that to Riley. She's aware of it.
On anything or just in?
On mine in particular, then I went and looked at like other properties that were in MLS. And sure enough, when you hit tax, you're going to get the tax roll report.
Right.
It's shaded out. You can't ask.
Is your name show on LIPA? Do you hide your ownership?
I don't know. But maybe that's what they did. Maybe that's what the owner did.
Usually that's what it is.
Oh, okay.
Like your husband was a police officer,
Right.
so.
Okay, good. Okay, so that's probably what happened. Okay, because I noticed it was on my list.
Yeah, and the title company can actually provide you with a strap number because they can.
The homeowner can also open it up. They can request to have it visible.
Okay.
So you might ask your.
Yeah, if I can. Yeah, it's the son under a trust.
Yeah, they'll have it. Yeah, or like I said, or they can tell the title company it's okay to. Yeah, they can get it for that. No, great questions. Now, because you never know. But that's why But that's why you don't put your home address on your real estate license either. There's the mailing address. Put the office address for the mailing address. You still have to give DBPR your real address, but it won't show to the public. Everybody, yeah, because we're also open book. We're doing that. Like what brought that to my mind was my friend was a psychiatrist, and they have to post their licenses on the wall. We don't have to post our licenses on the wall. So it had her home address on there. It was like, oh, great, all her patients can find out where she lives. Yeah. So she went and got that's how we learned you can change to the mailing address. And that's fine too. We just give it out. Well, if you use it for marketing, and some do, like if you're like Betsy Kessner is from Minnesota, and she's still licensed there, so she'll do your Minnesota connection. So they see the area code and they go, "Oh yeah, that's Minnesota." It's just different. Yeah, different. But then other ones will say, "Well, why doesn't he have a number here? Doesn't he live here all the time?" All that kind of stuff. Okay, so buyers, all of these wonderful little things. I actually love it. I think it makes it look more important. The integrity reserve study, you still have to check it off, even though it doesn't apply to most of the stuff. And if you don't know, you can then go to the law, call me, something like that, and we'll check to see if it's supposed to have one.
And what's the year?
That they're going to extend. It's supposed to all be done by the end of this year.
Yeah, but what's the starting? There's a starting 30 years.
It's 25. 25, and then some are 30.
Oh, okay. More than 3 stories higher.
Yes.
And that was a clarification they made.
There's
that the parking garage does
not count
as a storage.
Yeah.
Only living storage.
Thank you. Yeah, when they first passed this law, it was the knee jerk. Let's get something out there right away to protect everybody, and it included commercial, it included residential, and now they're tweaking it. They're getting it to where it's actually more manageable and people can do it. Because to try to administer what their law was, all of a sudden they found out, oh shoot, we don't have enough inspectors, we don't have enough infrastructure within the government to do it. And nothing else has fallen apart. We haven't had any more disasters, and I'm not minimizing what happened. I mean, but that was a big deal, and it woke us all up. And so it's going to take us 5 to 7 years to play catch up with just the money, in trying to get reserves set up for these people and all that. So the state is realizing that it's taking more time to get reserve monies and all of that. Keeps talking about the 7 days and all of that kind of good stuff. Okay. A condominium that does not conform to the requirements of this contract is voidable. Ew.
Hey, do you want to go back 2 slides? Yeah, it says new version paragraph 10D.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, never mind. That's actually 9D.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, because I looked at 10 and there's just a number of bullets.
Like the turnover inspection report for new condos and all of that kind of stuff. That's really something that just takes a whole study in itself. And I would love to tell you that I'm an expert on it. I keep going to all these classes and stuff, but if we really needed to get into that down and dirty, I would say I would bring an expert in to talk to us about that, because they're so full of nuances. And it would probably most likely be a real estate attorney, maybe like Sam Saad or something, to do that. But again, we haven't been selling that many. Miami, that's all they do. Fort Lauderdale, that's all they do. On our side, Naples has more than anything else. Marco is really getting hit with it because their condos are old. And they're really having to pay a lot of attention to it. Yes. Yeah. far as I know. Well, let me back that up. If we're a timeshare, we don't normally sell timeshares because you have to have a separate license for a timeshare. So we wouldn't normally sell them. We could sell a condo that's owned and then used as a timeshare. So they would still be subject to that. But like Pink Shell, we wouldn't sell just the timeshare. A condo, well, that was a bad thing. Pink Shell's a condo tel. They're not a timeshare. And
We're not allowed to do any timeshare.
correct.
We're allowed to sell the condominiums.
Right.
And the new owner have to get to an association to do the timeshare themselves.
Well, a timeshare is a different type of ownership. They don't actually own any property. They own a percentage. It's almost like buying stock.
They own time.
That's all they own. Yeah. So that's why we wouldn't have anything to do with this. Royal Shell is a condo tel, so there's real property there that gets sold. We can sell anything that's real property. That's why we don't sell mobile homes unless they're on land. We only sell something that's tangible, fixed. Yeah.
So, say it again on the mobile homes.
If somebody wanted to buy just a mobile home / a trailer like that has wheels, that falls under like automotive sales, and they use a different contract. It's a different state licensing, all of that kind of stuff. We don't have that license. But if somebody owns 5 acres and it has a mobile home on there, even with the wheels and all that, then if it comes attached to the ground, then we can sell it because it's all about the land.
So what about those mobile homes in Fort Myers?
Where they own the land. And you can find that on LIPA or through the tax roll. If you go in there and you put their address in and it doesn't show up on there, chances are they don't own the land.
You restrict the right to sell
I don't carry the state license for that. We looked into it, and the amount of money we can make selling it doesn't pay for the licensing and the insurance and all of that. Without land? With land, you can sell it. That's the whole deal. Underneath, that's the whole thing of the realtor thing. Underneath it all is the land. Underneath it all is the land. We all know that. Underneath, yeah. If it's got land attached to it, you can sell it.
The owner has to own the land, so it's mobile home.
Yep.
So we can make a deal out there.
As long as they own the land. Yeah. And
we have to stay away.
correct.
Like when you see the ads on Zillow for Jamaica Bay, Jamaica Bay is not land out. It's just a leased land. So you couldn't sell it.
They can give you a referral fee.
Yeah, that's fun trying to get that.
Yeah.
it.
Well, you heard the positive voice, right? No, I mean there's usually so little money, and then most of the parks, the communities have an on-site center, and they usually sell them right from there, and it's the most effective for those people. It's the weird things like Six Lakes, where there's some that are owned on land and some aren't owned on land. Yeah.
That ties to deed restricting.
You got to look at all that, yeah, what you can and cannot do.
Osprey Bay is all being built. McGregor there.
What are they doing with it?
They're rebuilding that whole. It used to be. What was it called? Tropicana, I think it was, and now it's Osprey Bay.
It was a charter park?
Yeah, but now they're putting up these manufactured homes 8 feet up, literally, and then connected. It's pretty crazy.
Old Bridge Village over there by the river. The new ones are they're all like 6-7 feet up.
I don't think they own the land.
I think they have to put that kind of structure on it.
They have to have water and sewer and cable and power on it.
If they're attaching it, then
I think they have to own it.
then they would own the land on it.
It's like down on Davis.
Oh yeah, I know you are.
Yeah, and
they're having to raise up all of
They're
them.
raising it.
And they
Yeah.
And they're selling the land for like between 60 and 80 grand.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
the same thing at Palmetto Palms.
yeah, oh yeah.
Same thing. They own the land there.
Siesta Bay, I'm not sure about that one.
Siesta Bay's not land.
way in the back too.
Yeah.
There's another one back there.
And there's some little law, I don't know how many years it is, but there's after a mobile home has been on a lot for so many years, I want to say 5 or 7, maybe 7 years, you cannot move it.
Right. Okay.
It's doesn't become, you still don't become owned, but the mobile home park now owns the trailer. And then what happened, like during the storm, then who owned what and who was going to be responsible for getting rid of it? That's a lot of stuff. So that's one of our arguments, that we would give someone to not buy just a mobile home and put it on a lease lot. You know, like Bayside Estates is those $200,000-$300,000 condos. Those are nice.
Decent.
Yeah, they're really nice, and they own their land on that. See the stuff you learn when you're here.
Some of us had more mobile home experience than we
You know, well, and part of it, you know, it's a price point, and I think that's because it's going to make a difference in there. I'm not going to even talk about crispy forms because we don't use the crispy form. We only use the far bar forms. Naples, of course, came up with their own little stuff as well, but try to stay with the far bar form. We don't sell cooperatives except in certain communities like Burnt Store Village, which is the whole combination of mobile homes on owned land, but it's a co-op.
There used to be a co-op down by the beach.
Yeah.
On the island.
There's a few on there, and if you do have the co-op on there, and it will say that in the tax rolls, then you're going to need to use the cooperative addendum. If you start getting into cooperative addendums, then call. That gives them the same 7 days because they're treating it as a condo. We talked about the receipt, which I love. Thank you. How about that?
Yay.
Hey! We avoided all the structural integrity reserve study stuff. That's a lot of stuff. But
This thing's starting to get like the buyer broker agreement. Like every time you turn around, there's another form, another change, another.
yeah,
You're right. It takes like 5 years
to get it all done. So I mean, I give Florida Realtors a lot of credit. They usually do any changes in July.
Well, they're working hard.
So we get it, yeah. It's going to be really good in August at the Florida meeting because there'll be lots of changes coming up with insurance, and there'll be good speakers and things like that. So if you haven't registered, I encourage you to register for the convention. Yeah,
Insurance changes by then?
I hope. We hope. We'll start having our meetings, and I sit on HOA Condo, and I sit on property management, and I'm not in the resort second home, but we'll start hearing all that stuff towards the end of this month and the earlier part of August. So as we get stuff before convention, we'll let you know. For commercials, we have, if anybody needs signs, we have a whole bunch of the sign sign holders, placeholders. If you need them, they're what, $35? $20? $25. No, but a good question. They're nice. You can put the, yeah. The panels? Yeah. You can get your own panels through Artistic. No, these are those panels right there.
So we have to call the company who make this the rider or the panel. You can put it there.
And get your own, yeah.
Save the signs and
The sign.
Yeah, we have some Jones and Company Realty ones if you want to use those, and then put your own rider in there. Those are nice for lots or, inexpensive areas. The one, when there's a hurricane, it's easier to get that down. When there's a post sign, you have the responsibility, and you'll get all the stuff from us. You got to take the riders off, take the sign off and all that. And the post guys will be running around like crazy trying to get them down. So any help you can give them will be helpful. Hopefully we won't have to have that exercise this year. We need it really, really, really lucky, right? Yeah, and we just say, and it's back to school time pretty soon, so we're gonna. I think Riley sent it out already. Last year we collected school supplies, and then we gave them out. So she'll put it she'll put it out there again. You can buy them and drop them off here, or you can go to Amazon and order.
I love the
drop-
Amazon thing.
Quick ship.
That's so easy.
That was so good with our peanut butter jelly drive. Just order from Amazon, and they just
I will send you stuff.
and they just dropped it all off. And Christmas in July, you saw we're getting ready for our open house the 26th and 27th. We're trying to figure out if we want to do 2 days or 1 day. Really just depends on who can do what. We've got 300 plus properties for sale, and it's going to be the end of the summer, so people will be back in town, getting ready for school and all of that. So it could be sellers, you get them excited because like, go look in your garage and find your Christmas wreath and put it out on the door and, have some fun. If you need stuff for Christmas, just call me.